This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
The X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell is largely an opinion talk show. All opinions, comments, or statements of fact expressed by Rob McConnell's guests are strictly their own and are not to be construed as those of the X-Zone Radio Show or endorsed in any manner by Rob McConnell, Relmar McConnell Media Company, the X-Zone Broadcast Network, its affiliated networks, stations, employees, or advertisers.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X-Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
And welcome back, X-Zone Nation. Great having you back with us. Hour number 3 tonight. And you're listening to us around the world on the X-Zone Broadcast Network and our fine family of broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including Radio X throughout Europe. If you'd like to send me an email, xzone at xzoneradiotv.com, on all social media sites, X-Zone Radio TV. And if you'd like to find out all about the programming that we have available for you 24/7, 365 on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, it's very simple, xzbn.net. You know what? We're going to have a great time this hour because my guest is the one, the only, the sensational Kooch N. Daniels. Now, in my book, How Do You Spell Fun? Kooch. How do you spell hilarious? Kooch. How do you spell credible psychic? Kooch. So without further ado, why don't I just bring my special guest on this hour, the one and only Kooch Daniels. And Kooch, welcome back. How are you, dear friend?
Oh, well, after an introduction like that, I'm about 2 feet taller, and I'm like floating, but I'm actually doing really well. Thank you. How are you?
Well, you're the psychic. You're the intuitive. You tell me.
Oh, really? On the air?
Sure, go
Let's
ahead.
see.
I've never lied to my listeners.
Okay, going through your psychic centers, trying to connect with your energy right now, and looks like you'd like to have about 4 Nubian slaves feeding you grapes and fanning you. But other than that, you're doing really well.
Hold on. Only 4?
Well, 1 for each cardinal direction. Each one would have like a different part of you that they'd be caressing.
Couldn't I have 1 for each hour in the day?
Would that be your preference? You wouldn't get tired?
Actually, my preference would be double that, but I'd settle for half.
I thought you were married.
I am.
And she wouldn't mind?
I wouldn't do it, so
I'm looking up plane fares right now to come over to your place.
Do you take PayPal? I'll fire the money over for you. There you go. Hey, I love you, Kooch. I really love you. You're such a positive person, and you know what? There's the fun side of Kooch that we all love and adore, but I love the other side of Kooch, the very serious side, and the lady who does so much for so many behind the scenes. And for that, my dear friend, you're blessed.
You are so sweet. Oh, thank you for your appreciation and that you honor the work that I do. And thank you for honoring the world of the supernatural and the people who are trying to bring light to the planet through their healing abilities. And all these people sometimes are looked down on by society or they're not recognized. So it's really, really great that, you're putting the spotlight on these kind of people.
Well, I'm putting the spotlight on credible people. Mind you, I am putting the spotlight on the charlatans that I expose.
Oh.
Yeah. You see, you're a good guy, so you've never seen the other side where I actually expose so-called intuitive, so-called ghost hunters, so-called paranormal investigators as nothing but frauds and charlatans. Because unless the public knows what to look out for, they're going to be duped before they get to the real people like yourself.
It happens all the time, and it makes the world a very interesting place. And I think because when people are looking for people who do healings or psychic readings, or they're usually in a vulnerable place. Most people don't call me when they're having a really good day and want a reading. People usually have some kind of a crisis or conflict, and they're looking for someone to give them a little guidance or some insight to help them through it. So usually when people come to people like myself, they have a need, and there are people who manipulate people and take advantage of people when they have needs. So I think it's really good.
But that isn't it in this case, because I've got to take my break, Kooch. Exo Nation, if you would like to contact a real, honest-to-goodness person who cares for you, who does a lot to make people happy and helps a lot of people behind the scenes, contact my friend Kooch Daniels. Here's her website, www.cybermystic.com. That's www.cybermystic.com. And Kooch and I will return on the other side of this break as we continue here in the X-Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, around the world on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, including across Europe on Radio X.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
How would you like to be able to read other people's minds? Well, the next best thing is here. When you know how to read a person's name, you know how the person thinks, feels, and behaves. Each letter in our name holds a key to unlock our true essence. Our name contains both our gifts and challenges in this lifetime. Mnemology science discovers personality secrets hidden in the placement of the letters of our names, including the first and last impression people remember about us. Sharon shows us how to interpret the arrangement of letters as outlined in her book, Know the Name, Know the Person. Sharon Lynn Wyeth created mnemology science after 18 years of research and testing her theories, and has supported thousands of people around the world in understanding themselves and others better. You'll enjoy Sharon's unique teachings as she shares her system to learn the gifts behind your given birth name. Even if you don't like your birth name, there are jewels in this book. If you're thinking of changing your name, ready to name your child, or wanting to get along better with others, this is the book for you. If you'd like to improve your relationships and change your life for the better, get the book today, Know the Name, Know the Person, or visit www.knowthename.com. That's www.knowthename.com.
Take a step back in time and discover old Florida cuisine at Marsh Landing Restaurant in Fellsmere, Florida. Enjoy delicacies such as frog legs, gator tail, catfish, and swamp cabbage, or enjoy the more traditional cuisine such as hand-cut Angus steaks, ribs, and seafood. Join us for breakfast with a southern flair featuring sweet potato pancakes, biscuits and gravy, and much more. Planning a party? Marsh Landing's private dining rooms can accommodate groups from 8 to 80 people. While you visit, enjoy the historic pictures, artifacts, and stories that line the walls. Marsh Landing is truly a unique experience. Marsh Landing Restaurant, 44 North Broadway in historic downtown Fellsmere. or visit marshlandingrestaurant.com. Marsh Landing, Old Florida cuisine at its best.
If you're a seeker, don't miss the inspiring book Shamanic Awakening, Between the Dark and the Daylight. This remarkable work chronicles shamanic counselor and indigenously trained dream decoder Sandra Cochran's 35 years of experience with diverse wisdom keepers throughout the Americas. Sandy's initiations across the British Isles, Turkey, Greece, and Egypt, combined with her knowledge of symbology, psychology, and myth, influence her dream blog and workshops. Sandy offers private readings, sacred international journeys, a meditative CD, and her book, Shamanic Awakening, to encourage you as you navigate your earth walk and create a deeper connection to yourself. Find this and more at her website, starwalkervisions.com.
Welcome back. Kooch Daniels is my special guest, www.cybermystic.com. And you know what? Since last time you and I talked, this world has gotten a little bit more wanky than it usually is, and that's pretty bad. As a psychic, what are you picking up in the world as far as energy, shift of energy? Are we going to get some stabilization?
It might be a time when people are just really being rattled to their bones because there's an acceleration of darkness, and when there's an acceleration of darkness, the light has to counteract that because there's a polarity. And when there's a shift towards more craziness or things that are upsetting and more suffering or more war, the panic mode sets in, and people start looking at what can they do to protect themselves, protect their families, and they work twice as hard to bring about improvement. So there's a little bit of a balancing that happens naturally, but it's not really fun to look at when the darkness becomes so strong. It's kind of like a dark storm. When we look at a dark storm, it feels a little threatening.
Yes, it's always darkest before the dawn.
Yes.
Yeah. Kooch, what set you on your quest, on your crusade to doing what you're doing?
I think I just came into the world this way because I started doing readings in front of Ghirardelli Square in San Francisco when I was about 21, and I would just sit on the steps, and that was my initiation into the world of becoming a reader. I would just do one reading after another.
So let me understand
my whole day
this.
doing that.
So let me understand this. You started doing readings in San Francisco 3 years ago. Okay, go on.
Yeah, right. Because I'm only 25 now.
That's right. Yeah. Go on.
Well, and it just kind of, and you're going to love this, Rob. When I was 21, and this is going to date myself, I went to Afghanistan before the Russian War.
Wow.
Because I loved mysticism, and I wanted to study palmistry in India and try to find out what I could about mystics. And so I went on a mystic quest when I was very, very young. And I wound up working in an opium den in Kabul, where I sat at the front of the door, and as people went in and went out, I would offer them readings. So I had my training in an opium den, to be honest.
Well, then you came back to the States, and?
Pardon me?
I said, and?
And so that's kind of like, I don't know, I've had so many experiences that I always would try to become a normal person. I went to school to become a psychologist, and I got my degree, and I was trying to be a psychologist, and I kept going back to becoming, to doing readings.
But what is normal, Kooch?
I'll just throw this in because it's really funny. Okay. My shift on a halfway house where I was working in a teen halfway house for troubled kids, and one of my 16-year-olds jumped out of the window in the middle of the night, and then I had to deal with that, which was really rough because you have to fill out hundreds of papers and talk with police. But she managed to come back about a month later on my same graveyard shift, and she had escaped and moved in with her boyfriend and was making $1 more an hour working at a consignment shop than I was making after I had my MA in psychology. And I was so annoyed that I went, wait a minute, I'm making enough money doing readings. Why am I sitting here for like minimum wage waiting to climb the ladder? And it was just like the universe kept saying, okay, look, you can do readings. Go do readings. And pretty soon I was just doing readings all the time.
But how do we say anything is normal these days, Kooch? What is normality?
Normality shifts with each second. Normality is when you can breathe and relax and enjoy being in your body and know that everything's changing at any moment, and you have to have a really strong inner core to be able to like feel the normalcy instead of panic attacks.
Why do you think so many people today, Kooch, are looking for that spiritual connection, the answers that they've never sought before in their lives?
I think it's because of what we've just been talking about. Life is really has a lot of really. We're all bombarded with negative news 24/7. We turn on the computer, there's negative news headlines. We turn on television, there's negative news. We go to movies or watch television, and we're watching murder and mayhem. And people need to find something that makes them feel safe and makes them want to have hope and optimism instead of that they're going to be living in fear. And when you're on a spiritual path or you're trying to find something that will heal your soul, you start looking for what creates meaning that makes you feel good and empowered instead of making you feel like your life is being threatened.
How do you help people unlock the best that they can be?
We can only offer keys, but everybody has to unlock that for themselves. So the keys that I offer people are positivity, optimism, inspirational words if I have them, things that might make a person feel hopeful. And you work with alternatives because every person has a different path and has different preferences and different beliefs. So you have to work with each person individually for, what can help that person and what might be valuable for them.
Do you use your psychology training when you're doing your readings?
Well, it helps. I think probably what has given me an advantage in a very competitive Bay Area environment, because there's so many psychics and readers, and some of them are really good and some of them are charlatans, and some of them are beginners and some of them are pros, but there's a competitive, I want that job, or, that could be me there. I mean, I've been told to get out of the way and let other readers have a turn. It is competitive out there. But I think why I've been able to kind of like be riding this wave is because I do have a grounding in how does the mind work? And how do we not insult intelligence when we're talking to people? Or how can we take one symbol that might have a universal meaning, but because it's universal, there's 20 million different people just in California that maybe has a different twist on how to read, a different view on how to read that symbol. But if you were reading cards, it's how does it relate to that person? Having a grounding in psychology has given me an advantage in maybe being able to see the complexity and how you have to be kind of on your toes to looking at different possibilities with different psyches.
Now,
every person has a different reality.
How explain that? Every person has a different reality.
Well, I'll take something very basic.
Okay.
We all have a mother.
Mm-hmm.
And if we were playing with tarot cards, the Empress, the third major arcana card, is the symbol of the mother and nurturing and unconditional love. And she's kind of the ideal mother. If she was, if the card was upside down, it could be the wacko mother who beats the child and puts the child in the closet and puts cigarette marks on their arms or something. But if she's upright, it's a positive. She's like the ideal, perfect mom.
Yeah.
But if you walk through a room and you said, here's this card, it's about mom, and you ask 20 different people, what is their connection with mom or with the symbol of the mother, everybody'd have a different view,
Right.
or a little bit of a different understanding of how a mother is in the world.
That's based on their perception and their own life experience.
Exactly. It's their own
Gotcha.
personal associations and their own life experience. So every time we're talking about something, a person comes to the table with their own set of beliefs and experiences, which makes everything a little different because we're all different.
Yeah. So, as you were saying, there are so many people out there in San Francisco, for example, who do readings and so on. How does John Q. Public, who for the first time wants to go get a psychic reading, how do they know who to go to who will give them the reading that they're looking for, not the reading that the psychic wants to give them? And I'm talking about the psychic who doesn't have your morals and your ethics.
Well, I read about people getting ripped off by charlatans all the time, and if a person has a little understanding, most people don't just go to readers unless people say, "Oh yeah, it's safe," and it can be really good, or you want to do this. I think before people show up and knock on a psychic's door, they've had a little information to guide them there, and I would. On some level it might be hit and miss, but usually people, unless they're drunk, it's just like walking into a tattoo parlor. You try to make sure your tattoo artist has some ability to draw before you go in and let them draw on your skin, because it's permanent. And when we talk words with other people, they can have a permanent effect on a person. So I think most people, they don't just go for a long reading where they're going to spend an hour with a person and spend their hard-earned cash unless they get a little information. It doesn't always work because sometimes people get the wrong information, but I think there's a lot of screening that goes on.
So what you're saying is if you walk into a tattoo parlor and the tattooist has dark glasses on, has a white cane beside him, and a seeing eye dog, get the hell out of there in a hurry.
Yeah, that would be the best. Run.
What has been the most touching reading, without giving any specifics, because I know that you deal in a lot of confidentiality with you and your clients. Can you give us an idea about what the most pivoting reading that you've ever given anyone was?
Oh, there's actually more than one. And there's those on the positive side and those on the negative side. Which kind are you interested in?
We've got about 2 minutes left in this segment, so let's go with a positive one.
The most positive one is that I was in front of Amma, the hugging saint, Sri Amritanandamayi, who's an internationally famous guru. And I was talking to somebody about being a palm reader, and she let me read her palm. It was very pivoting because she's all about getting rid of ego, and there I was standing in front of her with my ego and trying to read a master who's like she's called the Sat Guru, like a guru of gurus because she has so much wisdom. And I'm like, kind of like the dorky little idiot trying to read a master's hand. That was probably one of my most pivoting readings.
Now, you see, that's not what I got from that example. You see, what I got from that example, birds of a feather flock together.
Oh, you make my heart want to cry with happiness.
Well, that's how I see it. Kooch, stand by, my dear. You and I have to take our break at the bottom of this hour for the news. Exonation Kooch Daniels will return with me on the other side of this break. Don't forget, Exonation, that coming soon to the small and large screens everywhere, the Exxon Broadcast Network TV channel, xzbntv.net, I think, or .com. I'll have to get that from engineering later on. We'll be giving you 24/7, 365 paranormal broadcasting and parapsychology broadcasting, just like we do here on the X-Zone Radio Show. So Kooch and I will be back. If you'd like to contact Kooch for a one-on-one consultation, www.cybermystic.com. That's www.cybermystic.com. And we will be back after the news. I'm Rob McConnell. Don't go away.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
There's a legend shared by many indigenous cultures of a time when the nations were cast to the four corners of the world. Each nation was given a body of sacred knowledge that held a different portion of the truth to preserve. True reality could not be known until all the nations reunited, combining the information. If a single one was missing, the world could not be reborn and darkness would prevail. The Science of Magic Radio is dedicated to reuniting the sacred knowledge. With the understanding, none of us has all the answers, but together we can open new perceptions and possibilities. Through our combined vision, the world can be reborn into a place where darkness no longer prevails. Join me, Gwilda Wiyaka, and the Science of Magic daily on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, xzbn.net, or visit us at thescienceofmagic.net.
Gibbs A. Williams, Ph.D., is a practicing psychoanalyst, supervisor, researcher, and author in New York City. Much of his life has been dedicated to understanding nature and the uses of meaningful coincidences or synchronicities. His radical and original non-Jungian, non-mystical, non-magical theory of synchronicities illuminates much of the fog surrounding this challenging and perplexing topic. His ideas and manners are fresh, presented in a style that is both entertaining and highly informative. He is also an expert on crisis intervention, specially focused on violence reduction for the police and citizens, mastering anxiety, frustration, and stress without the use of medication, and effectively preventing and treating heroin addiction. Dr. Williams can be contacted at his email address at gwwilliamsny11@aol.com or visit his website at
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365.
True healing must address 4 levels: physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual, for us to live joyful and productive lives. We tend to treat 3 of the 4, leaving the spiritual languishing. If you're tired of the same dysfunctional patterns cropping up in your life, Soul Balancing is for you. Trixie Phelps, owner and founder of Soul Balancing, is a naturally gifted energy healer trained in numerous esoteric forms, including shamanism. Trixie has created a powerful modality that safely and effectively clears your energetic field. A soul balancing session can remove interference, heal trauma, and restore your hope. Contact Trixie for a life-changing long-distance session today, www.soulbalancing.world.
Kooch Daniels is my special guest, www.cybermystic.com. Before we went to the break, you told us about one of your positive readings. Now, can you tell us about one that wasn't so good?
One of the readings that has always stood out for me was I was in a public event. I was actually reading at a Renaissance fair. I've done readings for that fair, like thousands of readings over 25 years that I was reading for them. I'm dating myself a little because I've done so many readings, but one of them that was so negative stands out was a situation where I was, two of them stand out. One was reading a man who confessed to me of a murder, and as soon as I'm looking at him trying to sort it out, what am I supposed to do with the man who's just told me he's murdered somebody? He just got up and disappeared in the crowd, and I stood up to try to find him, and he disappeared. He was like gone, and I'm like standing in shock going, oh my God, what do I do? Yeah. Another reading was child endangerment, where someone was selling their child for sex, and when you're young and the first time you hear something like that, you're in such disbelief. I was clueless, and I'm still hating myself after all these years for not just grabbing the child and calling the police in that moment. But when you first become aware of something and you're being told something, and I'm trying to be an ethical reader, and I'm supposed to have these codes of ethics where I don't, broadcast what people's talking about, or I don't tell other people what's going on. And, there's some things that I just carried like I'm heavy-hearted because I didn't respond correctly. I didn't take advantage of what the situation and try to change it in that moment. I didn't know what to do. Those readings haunt me. And they're horrible readings because you're dealing with the lowest vibration and the most painful suffering on the planet, and in some ways, I try to think of good in everyone and see the good in everyone, and then when you're inexperienced with the dark forces, even though I worked in a locked ward of a mental hospital and I should know better, but dealing with the public with negative forces, it's kind of those kind of readings were really negative.
I fully understand what you mean, and I can understand the way you feel, because being a policeman was the same thing. You didn't go out expecting the worst of a person. You knew that there were those who were out there, but you were there to serve and protect. And when I was a cop, I always treated people on the other side of the badge as I would want to be treated if I was in their shoes. And there were those times where...
That's what makes you so sweet, Rob.
Oh, thanks, hon. But this is me. I don't put on airs. I just... my mother always used to tell me if it's good enough to think, it's good enough to say. And then as I grew up into a teenager, she used to tell me to shut up. So, I'm still trying to figure that one out. So, I understand where you're coming from. I really do. And I'll share with you an experience that I very rarely share. You know how you felt after that man came to you and admitted that he had killed someone?
Yeah.
And how you felt after.
I'm still carrying it. How many decades later, how many years later, I'm still carrying,
Okay, I was doing radar in a school zone. And we used to have squealers on our radar machine. And what that is a tape that comes out, and if the lieutenant or the officer of the day tells you that you have to give tickets over a certain speed limit, violations have to equal tickets. So I was doing this school zone, and there were 3 minutes left till 4 o'clock. At 4 o'clock, you left that area. Well, 2 minutes to 4, a car comes through. The radar, gives me an alert. The guy was doing 34 in a 30. We had to give tickets at 30 because it was a school zone.
Even for 4 miles over?
Yep. So anyway, I put the flashers on, and I get out of the vehicle, and I pull the guy over. And I go over to his car, and he says, "Hi, officer." A real nice guy. Real nice guy, and beside him is his young lady that he introduced me to as his wife. They had just moved into the area. He was unaware it was a school zone. He apologized, and he said, "All right, here's my driver's license, registration, and insurance. Please give me the ticket." So I went back to the police car, and I'm saying, I really don't want to give this guy a ticket, but I have to. I go, I give him the ticket, and he thanks me so much for, taking care of his community. Now, he passes me, and he's going north, and my vehicle is facing north. I'm doing radar. Anything coming north, that's the traffic I was targeting. I'm filling out the back of the ticket because, just in case he decided to plead not guilty in court, I had my notes on the back of the ticket. A few minutes later, this car is coming down towards me, flashing its lights, honking its horn like crazy. And I said, whoa, what's the matter? He said, officer, you better get down there. There's a hell of an accident. I'm sure somebody's dead. I said, oh, wait a minute. Hold on here. There's been no traffic behind me, targeted. The only car that's gone by me is the car I just stopped.
No!
I had this feeling in me that I can never explain. I get to the intersection. Sure enough, there was the vehicle that I had stopped. He was dead. His wife is now a quadriplegic. The person who went through a stop sign and hit them sideways in a T-bone was a drunken lady. She was an elderly lady, totally drunk. I had to stay there for a number of hours. Even though it was just on the line of our jurisdiction, I had to stay there. The fire department was there, the whole bit. And I've been living with that.
I'm sorry. That's so hard.
It's hard, but it's a fact of life. And I've been trying to understand, why me? Why that time? Why 4 minutes? Why couldn't he have been somewhere else for another 3 minutes? I wouldn't have been there. Would he have been alive today? Would his wife not be a paraplegic? I don't know. But it still plays very heavy.
It's really heavy. It just makes one kind of just feel sad. And, for you to have that experience and you're carrying that around forever, it's, how do we lighten that load so that you're not carrying that? And, if I was doing a reading for you in this moment, I would be trying to tell you, and I'm going to tell you, to put a lot of love into that memory, because you were given a job to do by not just your community and your need for a paycheck, but you had a soul obligation that you had made a soul commitment to be there to facilitate what happened.
Yeah.
And it's beyond logical understanding, and to just really try to put love into that memory so that it doesn't feel so heavy. Because you did a good job. You were doing what you were asked to do by the cosmos. You were the cosmic guide for that process that those people went through.
But it taught me a lesson about life, a very valuable lesson that I've kept with me ever since. That life is short, life is precious, and to make every ounce and every second of this existence count, and to be part of a solution and not part of a problem. Be the best person I can be to help other people to be the best they can be.
I would say that you gained an incredible depth and incredible insight through going through and sifting through what you had to witness, and that you're really blessed that you're such a positive person.
I try. And that's all anyone can do, is try their very best. Throughout my life, there have been failures, and I have never looked as a failure at the end of all being. I've always looked at a failure as a lesson in success.
Yay!
Because without failures, you can't be successful. I really believe that, whether it's at school, whether it's at work, whether it's at play. We all make mistakes, and the entire goal, as I see it, of a mistake is to let you learn that lesson. Now, if you're dumb enough not to see it as a lesson, but the end of the world that you're going to give up, well, you know what? You'll never be successful, no matter what you try.
But there's a saying, the road to success is paved with failures. that you have to keep going if you want to reach success.
That is so true. And I'm sure that you've realized that too. And I'm sure that the people who seek your counsel also experience that. And I'm sure that you put them back on the road to reality. And how many people...
I think my real name should be Hope, but I don't, it's Kooch, but...
Hope Kooch.
I try my best to give hope. I think that's partly why I get repeat customers as well, because they feel hopeful by the time they leave me. Most of the time, I mean, I don't know for everyone, but I think hope and optimism make life. It gives you permission to wake up with a smile on your face.
Mm-hmm. Hope and honesty. I was speaking to a guest earlier tonight, and we were talking about how a person feels when they tell the truth. They feel good. They feel happy. And I was talking to another guest last week who was a psychiatrist, and he said they've now found the happy gene, that when somebody tells the truth, the body releases the happy gene.
Just like when you go to the gym and you work out and all those endorphins get released and you feel,
You see, my idea
feels so good.
My idea of going to the gym is the coffee shop that's next to it, and I just kind of look in the window and say, that's it, you guys just keep that up. Oh, I feel great. Okay, I'm going to go home and drink my coffee now. And the ironic part is, as my daughter and her husband own a gym, and they've given me a family...
free pass that you never use?
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, and every time I look at them, they say, so, when's the last time you used it? I said, so, when's the last time you gave it to me?
Oh, you're too funny.
But what the heck, eh? I figured,
Well, you're looking really good. I mean, if
thanks.
your pictures are anything like the real thing, I think, you're doing something right.
Well, I've got a lot of things to thank for that. I've got 6 great kids, 10 wonderful grandchildren, and a wonderful wife who's my best friend.
Wow, that's the good life. You've got the good life.
It hasn't come easy. It hasn't come easy, but nothing worthwhile having does. I kind of do not understand these people who think that society or the world owes them for living. It's like, get off your high horse, you schmuck.
Entitlement. It's called entitlement.
I call it stupidity, but what the heck? Both.
Well, you're right, and at a certain point, stupid ideas have to be tested, and they're with trial and error, and that's usually when wisdom kicks in.
And in the words of Forrest Gump, stupid is as stupid does. Hey. Ooh, yeah. Ooh. Kooch, stand by, my dear friend. You and I have to take a final break here. Exo Nation, the one and only Kooch Daniels is my special guest for a one-on-one consultation. And I believe Kooch. And you will too once you have a one-on-one with her. www.cybermystic.com. That's www.cybermystic.com. And Kooch and I return as we wrap up this hour here in the X-Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Hey, listen, a lot of you people have sent me emails about the music we used to play. Well, keep listening to the show. I've got a great surprise for you that we're going to start doing in the very near future, right here on the X-Zone Broadcast Network. Don't go away.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401 courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365.
I am Dr. Carl O'Helvey, founder, president of a new cancer foundation focusing on evidence-based physical, mental, and spiritual interventions, including natural cancer cures, prayer, meditation, affirmations, nutrition, and other related holistic cancer prevention and cure modalities. These are used in cancer education, research, and financing care. I ask for your help to continue this important work by donating at www.holisticcancerfoundation.com.
Wouldn't you love to know the secret to everything? I'm Dr. Kimberly McGeorge, and on The Secret to Everything, we will merge the practical with open investigation into all realms of the mysterious. We will talk to cutting-edge alternative health practitioners, those who inspire and motivate you in business and life, and of course, we will share stories of the paranormal, conspiracy, and cryptozoology. You will transform because of the frequency I carry, the frequencies my guests carry. Life may never be the same after you listen to this program, for the secret to everything is for you, the listener, for those who desire more in every area of their lives and believe that it can still be found. Listen and discover thesecrettoeverything.com.
Little children aren't the only ones afraid of the dark. Millions of soldiers return from war zones with PTSD, anger, frustration, fear, and loneliness, much of which surfaces during the darkness of the night. You have the chance to change the lives of these American heroes. Songs and Stories for Soldiers.us provides free MP3 players for these men and women. With a list of 3 million songs in 16 different styles, 100,000 audiobooks, and 30,000 old-time radio programs, every veteran can find something to soothe and comfort them at no cost. All our players contain an 8-hour audio program designed to help veterans fall asleep. With 1,500 plus vets now participating, it's our goal to deliver 10,000 audio players this year. Go to our website at songsandstoriesforsoldiers.us. Help us help a veteran make it through the night.
Welcome back, everyone. Kooch Daniels is our special guest, www.cybermystic.com. That's www.cybermystic.com. Kooch, let me ask you something. What do you take when you watch Donald Trump? What intuitive feelings or intuition do you pick up from the president and what he's saying, what he's doing?
I try not to use my psychic abilities when I'm doing politics or when I'm watching politics because it's such a logical mess. I mean, it's just such a mess right in our country with all of the pros and cons and the outrages that are going on. And to try to use my psychic insight on that, it just makes me, it just kind of like takes my insides and I don't want to do it because it upsets me.
All right, you live in California?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so California is traditionally a Democratic state, and with President...
Yes, and California and Trump don't like one another very much.
So how is that negativity affecting the good people in California?
Oh my God! It's created this wave of disbelief and a wave of uncertainty and insecurity, and people came unglued when he became president. We're all trying to regroup at this point and not take it in such a negative way. But initially, it just affected everyone on an emotional level. You'd think it would be like just a logical reaction, but it was an emotional, just an emotional mess.
Yeah.
And people were just angry and upset, and people were frustrated, and it was really hard doing readings because I'd go out to do readings, and people were discombobulated, and it was all around the politics, and people were acting out and being much weirder and much more ungrounded than normal.
Have you found? I'm sorry.
Pardon me?
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Do you find that the people who come to see you for readings are asking different types of questions than they used to?
Ultimately, no, because people have families they're trying to protect, people have jobs they're trying to protect, people have futures they're trying to protect. That's pretty standard, and it always has been. I think people grunt and groan a lot more, and whenever they do bring up politics, it's not a good thing. You know, people are very upset about what they're seeing environmentally, their hope for their families, their grandkids. But the focus is still on love. Love is number one. It's just people can't help but wonder about their love lives, and being safe with their family. That's and their money, their career. Those are still the most important questions.
I've often wondered,
apart from Donald Trump,
Yeah,
apart from the man.
I've often wondered what it would be like if the media, the mainstream media, did not cover all the negative things that they do. For example, when there were these riots and these marches and these protests, if the media didn't cover them, I wonder if things would have gone as bad as they did. Because people love their 5 minutes of fame. And I wonder that if we took the spotlight off them, and if we took the spotlight off of all the political shenanigans that is going on these days, if things would not come back to normal at a greater speed.
That's a very optimistic thought. It seems like whenever we take our attention away from the political arena, things accelerate going down in the direction that we're trying not to go. So people are definitely fighting depression about the loss of our environmental, our educational, our there's so many things that are going backwards in our country right now compared to what seems to be the majority, what they would hope for their future. So people, that's one thing I have noticed in readings, that there's a lot of people that have depression in relation to politics and what's going on. So, it's definitely affecting people. There's no doubt about it.
You know, I used to watch CNN. And I don't anymore because I was getting too depressed first thing in the morning. Like, I usually get up around 5 o'clock in the morning. I have my coffee, and I'd sit down and I'd watch TV, and I'd go over my itinerary for the day that my staff sends me overnight. I don't do that now. What I do is I get up still at 5 o'clock in the morning. I get my coffee, and I get my itinerary, and I turn on the comedy channel. And I start my day off with a laugh.
You're giving your entire day a better start, for sure.
Yeah.
And so many people are turning off television for that same reason. They can't watch the news anymore because they're getting sick from watching it.
Well, there's too much
so
news.
You're not alone. It's affecting us on these really deep levels, and we don't have a lot of power to combat that negative wave of energy that's coming through the CNN or all those negative news blasts.
I think
we start feeling more helpless.
I think the media is going overboard, and this may sound strange coming from a guy in the media, but this is why I left mainstream media and we went on our own, because there was too much behind the scenes that the listener, the viewer, and the reader just never could understand. And when the job of the station or the network is to manipulate listeners, viewers, or readers of newspapers into buying product, and they will sell that product at any cost, including their audience, that's when I knew it was time to get out.
Yeah, well, our government's selling military spending and more budget for military and no budget for education, and taking away the rights for abortions and things. So, yeah, who wants to have that as their wake-up call in the morning?
Not this guy. I'd rather watch Mo, Larry, and Curly.
Yes! Much more fun.
Yeah. Violent, but fun. It's funny because when you watch the old cartoons like the Bugs Bunny, the Roadrunner...
I miss them. They're not on so much anymore.
Well, they are, but there's no more violence. Like the coyote doesn't get crunched with an anvil anymore. Like, that was funny.
Oh.
Come on. I think we've become way too politically correct. Way too politically correct. And, live and let live. Right? So what do you see? What do you see for the future, in general, using your intuitive ability?
Well, intuitive ability sometimes involves looking at the past to understand the present, to project what might happen in the future.
Right.
And so if you go back to ancient Rome, there were some really horrendous times, and Rome fell.
Yeah.
But look how beautiful Rome is at the present time. I mean, it's one of the most beautiful cities in the world. It's got great things in it, including, for the Catholics, it's like the center of wisdom. But, so things change over time, and we have to be optimistic that our lives are going in a good direction, even if everything is in a whirlpool looking like it's going downward, that we're actually moving forward, and we have to be really strong in day-to-day reality, making it the best it can be, just like you were saying, and which I really honor, to make each day really count and live it to the fullest, because the more you can put good energy into the world, the better the world is going to be. And if we each played our part to bring more light to the planet, there will be more light on the planet.
I found it rather funny when the Pope was talking about President Trump, and he says, "I disagree with a wall between two countries." And I looked at my producer and I said, "Wait a minute, isn't there a wall around the Vatican?"
But they let people in for a charge.
Well, yeah, but you can't sneak in. You get arrested. Huh?
Well, that might be, but I'm sure there's lots of spies that sneak in. I mean, it's just, you have to figure out. I mean, somebody's going to get in somewhere. It's just what people do. If there's a fence is meant to be climbed over. The challenge, the excitement of getting over that fence. And talking about fences, do you know how many huge machines they have in Mexico to dig huge tunnels under the ground? Mexico, all over Mexico, it's famous for its underground tunnels.
Well, honey, that's called irrigation.
No, it's way more than irrigation. It's like there's these underground tunnels under cities all over the place in Mexico, and already coming into the United States, there's underground tunnels. What is he thinking, that they're going to stop building tunnels? I mean, this wall is totally ridiculous. Oh, that's my point of view. My personal point of view is like, hey, for all the money we're spending on building fences, there's so many people that are going to have jobs digging tunnels.
Well, you know what? Instead of worrying about the little things, I think, just like here in Canada, take care of the sick, take care of the hungry, help the people who need the help, help with a better educational system, help with the homing situation, and then you can worry about everything else. But until that's done, take care of what's going on here. And I'm sure that if they did that, this would be a better world to live in every respect.
I am with you 100%.
My dear friend, it's time when you and I must say so long. Kooch, thank you ever so much. You're going to be back on. You're going to be back on. You're one of my favorite ladies. After all, you are number 3.
I'm happy to be number 3. It's my number.
Kooch, take care of yourself. Let our listeners know how they can find out more about you, hon, and how they can contact you.
Oh, they can go to the website, cybermystic.com, and they've got lots of little links to how to connect with me there. And I tell everybody, I've just got a great book called Tarot at a Crossroads that I just came out in November, and one that just came out last week called Awakening the Chakras.
Well, you know what we're going to have to do? We're going to have you back on within the next 2 weeks to talk about those 2 books.
Oh, my God. Well, I love you, Rob, and thank you for having me on. It's always wonderful to talk with you.
Kooch, take care of yourself, sweetie. I love you, too, and I'll have our people contact you, and we'll get you booked within 2 weeks to talk about your 2 books.
Sweet. Take good care.
You too, honey.
May your dreams come true.
Hey, they have. I've got a friend like you. Exo Nation, my guest this hour has been Kooch Daniels, and Kooch will be back within 2 weeks to tell us about her new books. But until then, visit her online at www.cybermystic.com. I am Rob McConnell. This is the X Zone. Don't go away. We'll be back after the news.